Federated Farmers, and we have Wayne Langford, President of Feds, joining us today. Welcome to the committee, Wayne. It's good to have you here. We've got you for 10 minutes. I'll hand that time over to you now. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you to the Chair and to the members of the committee for having Federated Farmers here today. As mentioned, I'm Wayne Langford, National President of Federated Farmers, New Zealand's largest grassroots farm advocacy group. Sitting alongside me, I've got Mitchell Newcomb here, Senior Policy Advisor, and also Paul Melville, our General Manager of Policy and Advocacy. The organisation has tens of thousands of members across the country, and we represent a diverse pan-sector membership. This includes sheep, beef, arable, high country, bees, goats, and rural butchers as well. Everything else in between probably too. Federated Farmers has a democratic voting system on issues, and we're driven from a grassroots system, not from the top down like other organisations. Our members' views on issues are as diverse as the farming systems. Most farmers are in support, some are neutral, and some are opposed. Federated Farmers' job is to navigate those differences in opinion to present a credible and consistent view, which we try to do. We bring together our National Council, including representatives from our board, 24 provinces across the country, individual industry groups, to debate policy positions and come up with an answer. This issue, the GeneTech Bill, has been through the rigour of the process, and we support these reforms, but the support does come with a caveat. The position of Federated Farmers National Council is that we support the reform and advocate for the benefits of genetic technology, but we also support a farmer's right to include or exclude these technologies and any controls or systems required to enable this. In effect, we want to make sure that we protect a farmer's right to choose. Over the last year, I've spoken to a large number of farmers and members, as most of you will probably have as well. I've met with organic farmers, regenerative farmers, conventional farmers, and those that are pushing boundaries in their own kind of ways. I've also met with scientists, biologists, processing companies, and others. All have their own thoughts, and I know which you've heard as well. My message, I guess, to all of those, and to the farmers, particularly as President of Federated Farmers, is that we have heard you, and I fully respect your right to choose and what that means for your farm. So how do we develop a regulatory system that provides for those farmers the right to choose? We've seen other countries like Australia who have gone through similar reform, and they now have growing rather than shrinking GE-free and organic industries alongside the use of their GE crops. The question is, will this work in New Zealand with our climate and our farming systems? Will it still provide the farmer with the right to choose, or do we have characteristics that make us different to other parts of the world? To support the right to choose, we propose a regulatory system that regular system reviews to ensure that the system is working for farmers. While legislation supports the framework for reform, further detail will need to be developed through regulation. Federated Farmers will also be advocating through the development of regulation to ensure that the right to choose is preserved, ensuring that it is practical and workable for farmers to use whichever side of the fence you sit on. As you have heard, the right to choose is a major part of our theme and submission today, and I'd urge the committee members to seriously consider that upon your thinking. I guess from a Federated Farmers' point of view, I want to now talk about why we advocate for the reform of the gene technology rules. New Zealand has a rich farming history unique to the pasture-based grazing system and our ability to grow grass. As farmers, we have continually challenged the way that we do things. Every day, a farmer's thinking of that challenge and how they can adapt and tweak their farming system to do things better. It's these tweaks and adjustments that have improved our productivity and efficiency to remain competitive and profitable in our global market. Up until now, we have done this really well without the use of gene technology, which has been an awesome effort and should really be acknowledged. But we also have farmers asking the question, why can't we use gene tech to move to the next step, particularly when many of our competitors are? Now, Federated Farmers aren't asking for the Pandora's box of gene tech to be busted open and free rein to everyone. We believe that the approach proposed in the bill provides a balanced risk and risk/opportunity, recognising the speed at which technology is advancing. As you can imagine, I've had many questions and phone calls and emails on this topic, as you would have had too. And some of those questions have been, in particular, will this affect the value of our trade? Which we've heard from, and I've seen you ask a number of times this morning. Giving the farmers the right to choose will mean individually farmers and companies they supply can determine this, and they can take that consideration into customers' preferences as well. What value will this bring to New Zealand farmers? Well, giving the farmers the right to choose will allow each farmer to choose between the premium being offered for being GE-free and the premium being offered for the potential benefits from a GE crop may offer. Will this make me, as the farmer, more money? Or will the benefit actually be outside of the farm gate? This is a concern that many farmers have, who fear patents may mean that the profits aren't felt behind the farm gate, right? Where's the actual profit from all of this talk gonna end up? It's okay to have the goal to double out the value of our exports over the next 10 years, but me as a farmer, am I going to get any of that? And what's a fair for me to get there? Here again, I'd like to point out the right to choose. If you don't profit, you don't have to use the product. This isn't too different to what farmers do already, buying chemicals or seeds from companies for patents, but only choosing to do when it is in their best interest. I guess, have we got the ability to keep the right to choose within the New Zealand farming context is another question. The New Zealand farming system is very unique. We know that it's so heavily pasture-based and what that brings. I think Fonterra touched on it this morning around the makeup of our farming system as well, being heavily dairy-based. Do we have the ability to avoid issues like cross-contamination? Well, we think yes, through regulatory reviews and with help to ensure that we can keep this right to choose for farmers. I guess whose cost is it to wear the introduction of new traceability and verification that may be required for GMO-free farmers? It may be the case that the existing assurance schemes for GMO-free systems need to be beefed up. And there is some government support or help within the current system that may be needed there. Are we looking through this just through one lens? Is this all about production or what is this about? I mean, we should be looking at, gene tech isn't just about increasing production, but it's got to be about profitability on farm as well. Sustainability, animal health, biodiversity. We haven't, as farmers today, even touched on human health or pest management or all that sort of thing, or conservation in our field sport for today. These are the on-the-ground farming questions that my members have been asking me, and other types of questions that we would hope that you consider as this framework is developed. Federated Farmers have advocated for a review of the Gene Tech Bill, and we support this reform, noting that we view the reform gives our farmers the right to choose. We have proposed some changes to strengthen the bill in our submission. There is also a lot of work to be done as regulation and systems are developed, and we will continue to advocate for the farmers' right to choose, making sure that they're practical down on the farm level.
If you want to give us time for questions, we don't have too much time.
One line.
Yes.
We're optimistic of this work and appreciate the time that you've given us, and we'll now take some questions.
Excellent, thank you. We've got 4 members who want questions now, so if we can just be
quick. Excellent. Right. Yes. Sorry, I'll be really quick. Thank you, Wayne, for coming in. Really appreciate it. Going through your written submission, there's a number of figures and a number of polls that you've carried out, including one improving animal welfare and performance of livestock, et cetera, has 83% support from your members. How were these polls, and I think you've got a number of them here, how were they carried out?
Thank you, Hamish. So Federated Farmers has conducted 2 of our own polls. We commissioned a market research company to do this, and they've used data that they hold to randomly survey 1,000 farmers in each, and that includes farm managers and farm owners. So the first one was done prior to election 2023, and it was a more general one around whether or not we think farmers should have the right to choose to use genetically modified grasses. And from that poll, there was 16% said no, 67% in favour, And then just more recently, late last year, we asked a more targeted question on this reform in front of the committee. And so we had on that one 23% opposed. So there's a slight increase there and just over 50% in favour. So I think what we've tried to do in our position is recognising that diversity of opinion that exists amongst farmers and advocating for a position that supports all of them. The two other polls in our submission were done by the Dairy Exporter magazine and Beef and Lamb New Zealand. And so they were more targeted at subsectors. I can't speak to how those were conducted.
I think one of the reasons why we did go independent as well is because we did want the view outside of our membership to see if we were in line with the thinking, and that's what it showed as well.
Thank you. I'll move on quickly to Minister Patterson and I'll come over to the side. And we will go a bit over on this, but it's a key body.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Wayne team. So the right to choose, I agree, this is a really big issue. We heard from Ag Research that for perennial ryegrass, it was essentially impossible to keep it within boundaries. Once it's out, basically, over time. So some of the other submissions we heard this morning around risk and liability. So how are we going to be fair here? I mean, there's been different angles on this. The Life Science Network there before said that it should be the people that want to stay GMO free, the liability should sit with them. You've kind of, I think, probably come down on that side as well. Normally you're here asking us to take regulations away. Now you're asking us to put some in. So surely, to me, the conventional farmers, the ones that get caught up in this, that maybe not want to get into this, they're the ones, probably even more than the organic people who have already got a regulatory regime, are going to be the ones that are going to be disadvantaged. So in terms of that right to choose, how we're going to deal with this, and plus the liability should it get out and impact the others. Sorry, that was a bit loosely worded, but I think you get what I mean.
It was, yeah. I mean, as mentioned, we've got organic farmers and farmers that are in favour of this as well. While we support the bill, we also support their right to farm the way they want to farm. So how are we going to protect it? That is a very good question. That's what needs to be worked through. I do have Colin Hurst, my arable chair, sitting in the crowd that would speak to some of the work that already goes in within the arable sector to protect our crops, and we know that some of those distances and some of the challenges around cross-pollination and that sort of thing are challenges. And so we're not saying open the Pandora's box and just give it to everyone to use and go out there and do it. We're saying, hey, how can we use it and how can we make this work within our farming systems? So not, hey, look, here's a whole lot of seed tomorrow, go out and plant it. How do we make it work, and how do we protect those farms that don't want to use it and give them the right to choose?
Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, in terms of that challenge of supposed coexistence, which, as the Minister points out, Ag Research conceded over time ryegrass is going to spread. Already you can't separate organic milk from conventional milk in the South Island. Fonterra doesn't, at least. So where is you could do it, but they don't.
Yeah.
And so where's the cost of compliance, and have you evaluated that for trying to achieve some sort of coexistence, and the cost of compliance for traceability? Who's going to cover that cost? And have you assessed the cost of forfeiting our current non-GMO producer status?
There's quite a few questions in there. I think we did hear from this morning from Fonterra suggesting, if I characterise their submission correctly, that one of the challenges they have is that by not having gene-edited grasses have a declaration, it makes it harder for them to put their own traceability systems in place.
Yeah.
That's not something we've touched on our submission. I think NZ touched on it as well. And so we're open to considering some changes in that space. But what we'd then say is that, generally speaking, it's up to the company that wants to pursue the premium to put that traceability in place and manage that through their supply chain. So Fonterra makes a choice to have an organics export. They've made some choices around the most cost-effective way to do that. Any farmer in the South Island can be organic if they want to, but Fonterra's making a choice not to pay them a premium.
We're not just talking about organic.
sorry.
No, it's the
Steve.
GMO-free. This is an important
GMO-free,
point.
it's
The
not just organic.
GMO-free, because right now they've got no compliance whatsoever because it's a pole position. Now they're going into having to go into a regime. Who should pay for that? And how on earth are we going to coexist that within perennial ryegrass? It's impossible. We've heard it from Ag Research.
So the regime exists when you want to make a claim. So any,
Sorry, guys, we're way over here and I need to give Dr. Vera a question as I promised her. Unless you don't want.
Well, it's the same issue. I
It's a
mean,
vital
this is,
point,
this is the big issue for the bill. Should the bill regulate and say, someone using a technology should do X, Y, and Z to prevent contamination, support coexistence? Or should we be leaving it to farmers and the companies that they supply to determine? That's the question.
just to build on that as well, my understanding is that if it wasn't a gene-edited crop, if it was coming through the other pathway, there would be a risk assessment done for that crop. And so if there was a high risk of contamination, then there could be requirements placed on how that crop is used. So it's not necessarily that once you get through the use of that crop, it's a free-for-all. And so it would be, rather than saying that all of these, anything that's genetically modified has the same risk, and we're going to take a blanket approach, you'd look at it on an individual case-by-case basis.
I think what's important to hear, I understand the focus around ryegrass.
Sorry, guys, we'll be very quick.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
close
was
this
saying,
very
yeah,
soon.
I understand the focus around ryegrass. We're talking about opening up the opportunity for gene tech here, and it's not just in ryegrass monarch. So there is the risk, and that could be evaluated to be too high. And so we could use gene tech in other areas. It's not that so just because ryegrass may not work, doesn't mean that we can't do other. But ultimately, we've put across the case that we do want to protect the farmers' right to choose.
Thank you very much for coming in here.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission.